There's a strange phenomenon that happens when you finally stop caring. Not in the reckless, throw everything away kind of way, but in the way that detaches you from the invisible chains pulling at your every move. Because here's the wild truth. Most of the stress, pressure, and chaos in your life, it doesn't come from the things themselves. It comes from how much you care about them. Let's say you're walking into a crowded room. Maybe it's a party, maybe it's a networking event, or maybe it's just a coffee shop where you suddenly feel like every single person is analyzing your existence, your posture, your outfit, the way you're stirring your drink, like you've somehow become the main character in a psychological thriller. But then something changes. You stop caring. Not in a nihilistic, nothing matters kind of way, but in a liberating, peaceful, I'm just here, existing kind of way. And what happens? The tension melts. Conversations feel easier. People gravitate toward you. You stop filtering yourself into someone else's expectations. And suddenly, everything that felt heavy becomes effortless. It's almost like the world has been waiting for you to get out of your own way. But why does this happen? Why does life seem to work better when you care just a little bit less? Well, part of it comes down to attachment. The more you cling, the more things slip through your fingers. It's like holding onto sand. Gripping it tightly makes it fall faster, but opening your hand allows it to rest gently in your palm. Think about how this plays out in real life. The job you desperately want, you overthink it, you stress, you try too hard, and somehow it never comes. But the moment you stop obsessing, you get the email out of nowhere. The relationship you wanted to fix, the more you force it, the worse it gets. But when you step back, the dynamic shifts effortlessly. It's not magic, it's psychology, because people, situations, and even opportunities respond to the energy you put out. Desperation repels, ease attracts, and that's what most people never realize. The universe, life, or whatever you want to call it, it's constantly reflecting back what you give it. When you stop micromanaging every outcome, when you stop overanalyzing every interaction, when you stop squeezing the steering wheel of life like you're about to crash, that's when things start to align. And the irony? Most of the things you thought you needed to stress about were never that serious to begin with. There's something funny about the way life works. It's almost like the more you chase something, the faster it runs away from you. And the second you stop sprinting after it, it just casually walks back like it never left. Think about the last time you were desperately trying to impress someone. Maybe it was a job interview, a first date, or even just a social interaction where you really wanted to be liked. You rehearsed your words, double-checked your outfit, analyzed every little detail. And how did it go? Probably awkward, forced, unnatural. But then there's that time you barely tried. You showed up in a relaxed state, didn't overthink anything, and somehow everything flowed effortlessly. People vibed with you, conversations unfolded naturally, and it felt easy. That's the paradox. Trying too hard kills the magic. And it's not just in social situations. It applies to everything. Ever notice how musicians talk about writing their biggest hits in 10 minutes? Or how artists say their best work came when they weren't even trying? That's because creativity and life thrives in a state of ease, not effort. Here's why. Your mind has two modes, focus and flow. Focus is when you try to force things. You stress, overthink, and grip onto control like it's the only thing keeping you from falling apart. But flow is where the real magic happens. It's when you stop caring just enough to let your instincts take over. Athletes call it being in the zone. Writers call it losing themselves in the work. You felt it too. Those moments where time disappears and everything just clicks. But you can't enter that state when you're obsessed with the outcome. When you care too much, you actually get in your own way. It's like trying to remember something that's on the tip of your tongue. The harder you push, the further it slips away. But the moment you let go, and move on, boom, it pops into your mind effortlessly. So what does this mean for life? It means that most of the stress, frustration, and roadblocks you face aren't because life is against you. They're happening because you're holding on too tightly. Money, the more desperate you are, the harder it is to get. But when you stop making every decision from a place of fear and scarcity, opportunities start appearing. Love, the more you chase it, the further it runs. But when you stop making your happiness dependent on someone else, people naturally become drawn to you. Even personal growth works this way. Have you ever tried to force yourself to be happy? To force yourself to relax? It never works. But when you stop making happiness a goal and just allow yourself to be present, it sneaks up on you. So maybe, just maybe, the key isn't in trying harder. It's in letting go. Because when you finally stop gripping onto life like it's a test you're trying not to fail, you realize something shocking. The things you wanted were never that far away to begin with. It's strange how we spend most of our lives gripping onto things like we're afraid they'll disappear the second we loosen our grasp. Our relationships, our careers, our reputations. We hold on to them so tightly, thinking that control equals security. But what if that grip is exactly what's suffocating the things we want the most? Picture this. You're holding a handful of sand. If you keep your hand open and relaxed, the sand stays there, steady. But the moment you clench your fist around it, trying to keep every single grain from slipping away, it pours right through the gaps in your fingers. That's what happens when we try too hard in life. The things we fear losing the most are often the things we push away by gripping onto them for dear life. Take relationships, for example. Ever been in a situation where someone was way too eager? Maybe they texted you nonstop, needed constant reassurance, or tried too hard to prove their worth. What happened? You felt smothered. The energy felt desperate. It wasn't attractive, it was exhausting. Now flip it. Think of someone who wasn't in a rush, who wasn't over-invested in seeking approval, who moved through life with a quiet confidence. They didn't need you to like them. They just existed as they were, and that was enough. That energy, that's the energy that pulls people in. Not desperation, not control, but trust. Trust in oneself, trust in life. And this isn't just about people, it's about success too. How many stories have you heard of people who worked themselves into burnout, chasing money or status, only to realize that it never made them happy? Then, the moment they stopped chasing, when they focused on things they actually enjoyed, success came knocking at their door. It happens all the time. Investors who lose thousands because they panic and sell at the worst possible time, while those who trust the process end up winning. Entrepreneurs who go all in on a forced idea only to fail, but then stumble into something effortless that turns into their biggest success. Artists who create their best work when they stop worrying about what people think and just express themselves. The common thread? The more you chase, the harder it runs. The more you let go, the more things find you. And look, I get it. Letting go feels scary. We've been conditioned to believe that if we're not actively controlling everything, we're failing. That if we stop worrying, things will fall apart. That if we don't try, we won't get anywhere. But that's the illusion. Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means trusting that what's meant for you will come, not through force, but through alignment. It means taking action from a place of calm confidence rather than from fear. It means allowing life to unfold rather than fighting it every step of the way. And here's where it gets crazy. When you stop caring in the way society has trained you to, when you stop gripping onto everything like your life depends on it, you don't lose control, you gain it. Because instead of making fear-based decisions, you make real decisions. Instead of reacting to life, you start choosing how you engage with it, and that changes everything. There's a paradox most people don't realize. The moment you stop being overly attached to an outcome, the more likely it is to happen in your favor. It sounds counterintuitive, right? Society drills into us that success comes from obsessing over every detail, micromanaging every move, and constantly being on edge about the future. But in reality, obsession often blocks the very things we want from happening. Think about those moments when life just flows, when things seem to align effortlessly. You weren't overthinking, you weren't chasing, you weren't forcing anything to happen. You were just in the moment, doing what felt right. And somehow, everything fell into place. There's a reason for that. When you stop caring too much, your mind opens up. Instead of being stuck in tunnel vision, you start noticing opportunities you would have missed before. You become more adaptable, more creative, and more in tune with the natural rhythm of life. Athletes know this all too well. The best performers don't succeed because they're stressing over every play. They succeed because they're relaxed, trusting their skills, moving instinctively rather than second-guessing themselves. This applies to everything: relationships, careers, personal growth. Look at people who are socially magnetic. They're not the ones who are desperately trying to impress everyone. They're the ones who are comfortable in their own skin, who don't need validation to feel good about themselves. That energy naturally draws people in. Now, think about those times when you've been nervous, overanalyzing your every word, wondering what people think of you. What happens? You feel stiff, awkward, disconnected. That's because attachment creates pressure, and pressure kills flow. Here's the wild part. When you stop making everything such a high-stakes situation, life actually becomes easier. You start taking risks, not because you're reckless, but because you're no longer crippled by the fear of failing. You start expressing yourself, not because you need approval, but because you're genuinely enjoying the moment. You start succeeding, not because you're forcing success, but because you're aligned with what actually feels right for you. This is why so many people experience breakthroughs after they stop obsessing. They quit chasing the dream job, and suddenly a better opportunity appears. They stop fixating on a relationship, and suddenly the right person comes along. They stop forcing a creative project, and suddenly the inspiration flows effortlessly. It's not magic, it's simply the removal of resistance. When you grip something too tightly, you create tension. When you let it breathe, it moves naturally. And the best part, once you experience this shift for yourself, you'll never want to go back to your old way of living. Because once you see how much energy you are wasting by trying to control the uncontrollable, you'll realize how freeing it is to just exist, to do your best, and then let life meet you halfway. So how do you actually apply this to your life? How do you let go without completely disconnecting from reality? Because let's be real, this isn't about giving up, living in a cave, or pretending nothing matters. It's about mastering detachment while staying fully engaged. The key is shifting from force to flow. Look at the people who always seem to be in the right place at the right time. It's not luck, it's alignment. They move through life with an openness that allows things to come to them rather than constantly chasing. Here's how you can start shifting into that energy. 1. Stop treating everything like life or death. Most of the things that stress you out today, you won't even remember them a year from now. The deadline, the awkward conversation, the thing you said that kept replaying in your head, it won't matter. When you zoom out, you realize most things don't carry the weight you think they do. So take a breath, ease up. It's just life. 2. Trust that the right things will find you. This doesn't mean you sit around doing nothing. It means you do your part. You show up, you take action, but you don't grip the outcome so tightly that you suffocate it. Wanting something is fine, but needing it to work out in a specific way? That's where suffering begins. 3. Rewire your response to uncertainty. Instead of fearing the unknown, see it as a blank canvas. The future isn't written, it's shaped by your present energy. And when you stop micromanaging every detail, you allow space for better things to unfold, things you wouldn't have even considered before. 4. Stop trying to convince people, whether it's relationships, career opportunities, or personal growth. The moment you stop begging for approval, you gain control. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will support you. That's fine. The right people and opportunities will naturally align when you stop forcing what isn't meant for you. 5. Redirect your focus to what you can control. The way you react to situations, the energy you bring to the table, the choices you make daily. These are your domain. And when you focus on that, rather than obsessing over outcomes, you become unshakable. The funny thing, the moment you stop needing everything to go your way, you start noticing how often it actually does. When you let go of desperation, you open the door for real possibilities. When you stop clutching so tightly to expectations, life starts surprising you in ways you never saw coming. So here's the challenge. For the next week, try not caring so much about the little things. See what happens when you release your grip on the things that usually drain you. You might just realize that the less you chase, the more naturally things fall into place. Here's something wild. When you stop caring so much, people start caring more about you. The energy shift is undeniable. The moment you stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, and over-efforting, people start leaning in. It's like this invisible force flips. The things you used to chase, they start moving toward you. The opportunities that once felt out of reach, they show up when you're least expecting them. And the people who once overlooked you, suddenly they're paying attention. Why? Because desperation repels, but confidence attracts. There's a reason why the person who's relaxed, laughing, and unbothered is always the one who gets noticed in a room. There's a reason why the person who isn't constantly seeking validation gets respect without even trying. When you stop needing everything to work out a certain way, you give off this effortless, magnetic energy. You're not forcing, you're not chasing, you're just being. And that's powerful. Now I get it. This is easier said than done, but here's a simple shift. Start noticing how often you stress over things that are completely out of your control. How often do you let someone's opinion mess with your mood? How often do you waste energy on things that won't even matter in a week? And if you catch yourself over-caring again, just take a deep breath, shrug, and remind yourself, hey, whatever. Seriously, try it. Just once. Next time something irritates you, instead of spiraling, just say, hey, whatever. You'll be shocked at how much lighter you feel. Now, if you made it this far into the video, either you really enjoyed it, or you just forgot to click off. Either way, might as well hit that like button, because let's be honest, if you weren't into it, you wouldn't still be here. And if you want more of this kind of content, subscribe, or don't. No pressure, but, the algorithm is watching. Just kidding. Enjoy your day or night, my friend.